Do you see that in many people's eyes?
I do. I see it in a lot of people. I think there's something that God put in all of us, and that's to overcome, to move forward.
Jesus Christ, you can trust him. He'll never fail.
We've seen midgets grow. We've seen arms and legs that stop growing. Mandada basata. I don't make this stuff up.
So are we going to be called away to meet the Lord? But it's not going to be 300 years. We live in right at the coming of Jesus Christ.
You're just a 10-foot tall crybaby.
I'm crying.
It's not so bad. I mean, no, Christians aren't being killed.
No, not yet.
What the Bible says, Leviticus 20:13. If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with the woman, they shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. And that, my friend, is the cure for AIDS.
The notion that atheists are somehow the intelligentsia among us and so forth, I think this is just completely false.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Age of Reason podcast. What's going on, Alex?
Oh, not much, man. Just actually waking up.
Yeah, I got my energy though. I was up late again playing video games last night and slept in, and now I think I'm good to go. I'm probably gonna pass out later though. I actually didn't sleep too long last night. But man, we got a lot of things to discuss this week. Anything new with you?
I just had a stupid argument yesterday on Facebook. I knew I shouldn't have got into it. Stupid people tend to drag you to their level. But it was, interesting. I in this case, I made it a point. It was about politics, about Bernie. They attacked him, with the meme, and it was pretty stupid. But, I came back a little bit, and, it was funny. She kept trying to make a point. I don't know where she got the fact that Bernie's grandparents
were on welfare,
died poor, or were on welfare or something.
Right.
And she kept making the point like, oh, how come Bernie didn't help his grandparents? How come Bernie didn't help his grandparents?
Because we don't do child slavery. Well, who knows? We probably could have back then. He's old enough.
But the thing is, his grandparents were killed in the Holocaust. I'm like...
He's supposed to be Captain America?
I'm like, obviously you haven't done too much research if you keep bringing up the grandparent thing. They were killed in the Holocaust, right? So, the other thing we kind of got into is I tried to make it a point, for myself and you, I think we're kind of in the same situation. Some of his policies, the minimum wage, and some of his policies for kind of more targeted towards lower income people, they're not necessarily gonna benefit myself and you the way some maybe lower wage workers are, something like that. So right. I think to me, I think it's almost a higher position, right? When you can say, well, the charge that they throw a lot is moochers, or I'm looking for a handout, or something like that. I think it adds a lot to our case when we can say, no, it's not actually going to benefit me. I just see how it could benefit the rest of the country.
Well, that particular point isn't going to benefit you and I, but there's a lot of things that is going to benefit us and ultimately the rest of the country. And one thing for me that I have always wanted, I know you and I kind of differ in opinion on this, I've always wanted to go to college. I've always wanted to, and I did for a year. I went to MJC when I was still in Modesto, second year out of high school, and then I got a promotion at work, and that took me out of any government assistance, and so I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't afford that, and making education free, that's a handout and all this other shit. And this is I sent you my reply when I came across that meme from my mother-in-law. I sent you my reply, and one of the things I wanted to point out to her was, if you are against, one thing that will help everybody, raising our taxes by 2%, which will add up to about $466 a year if you make $50K, compared to paying $5,000 a year on premiums and copays and all that. And you and I have discussed that already, so I won't get into those details. But what I told her was, if you're against this, what is it about having citizens in this country healthy and educated that scares you so much? And another thing that Bernie points out all the time, these are radical ideas in the United States. These are not radical ideas elsewhere. And I feel myself getting into a very similar rant that I went on a few weeks ago, so I'm not going to do that. But that meme was ridiculous. It said one of the points on there was it was from the Comical Conservative. Conservatism isn't funny. He said, "You can't."
Look at Dennis Miller.
Fucking remember, dude. You remember how much fun we used to make at Dennis Miller when he joined Monday Night Football for like one season, and then they cut him. Dumbass. Anyway, one of the points that the meme made was you can't tax your way out of debt. Yes, you can. Where do these people think our money comes from? It comes from taxing. You need to tax the right people. So when it's like we can't get out of this deficit with taxes, but then we're never going to get out of the fucking deficit. I mean, we could if we cut all of our fucking military, and I'm for cutting military, but not all of it. I mean, come the fuck on. These fucking people, man. Ugh.
Yeah, so, that was just to end, that stupid conversation. But that was one of the things that I did point out, that free free college would potentially benefit me because I have kids. So that would be for, but I did make it a point to say, like, I'm not looking for a handout. I just was pointing out that was the one policy that would probably benefit me the most outside of universal health care, which is going to benefit the whole country. So I made that point. And then, of course, in the next reply, I was kind of arguing with two people. Both of them called me out saying, "Oh, the government should not be paying for your kids. That's your responsibility." Well, no shit. I mean, I obviously take care of my kids, and if Bernie isn't elected and, college is still getting more and more expensive, I mean, then I'll have to find a way to pay for it in, almost 10 years now. But, I mean, that's a burden that I, have regardless, but it would definitely be nice if, Bernie's plans came through. And, I mean, like you said, a high school education now is not the same as it used to be 50, 60 years ago.
Right.
You definitely need more skills. So we had that little argument, and then this person I think is like in their at least 40s, right, mid 40s.
Yeah.
So I made the point, they called me out when I went to college. We didn't need the government to help or blah blah blah. When you went to college, we did have basically government paid college. Tuition was very very cheap. $2 or $3 a unit. You could go to UC Berkeley, all the UCs and all the state colleges were very cheap at the time. Right. So I sent her a graph, showing the cost of 4-year college from the 70s to now, and it's like one of those mountain graphs that just keeps climbing. And of course, she made the point, "Oh, you always bring out graphs and statistics that that don't help my case." Well, I'm sorry, I'm not arguing for your freaking case, So it was. I usually don't get into the Facebook ones, but I was tapping my phone pretty heated yesterday, like finishing some of those comments. But
yeah, I've heard this woman was the inspiration for one of my favorite terms, Republicunt, which I just think is hilarious. Somebody said that, and she deserves a lot of credit for that term because it's pretty awesome. And it's that holier than thou mentality that certain people get. I mean, I knew this person you were having the conversation with. I knew her when I was much younger, and I don't know her now. So, but what I will say is that if she is in any position in life where she lives somewhat of a life of luxury or is content and happy with it, this just goes back to the point you were making a few weeks ago or whenever that was about, how Ben Carson and others like him, kind of came from nothing. He didn't come from a lot of money. He couldn't even shank somebody effectively. He kept hitting belt buckles. And now he's running for president, and his only worry is that he suffers from narcolepsy. I mean, but it's like those people get to a certain point, and it's like, well, fuck everybody else. I did it. And, I was thinking about this earlier. I want to start a fucking movement on Facebook under the hashtag #UsNotMe. US, not me. because that is the problem with our mentality. It was brought up in the Michael Moore documentary, and I just watched Chelsea Does Racism on Netflix. I never liked Chelsea Handler. I didn't like her show. I didn't feel like, I love offensive comedy, but I never felt like she sold it hard enough. I felt like she was trying to be an offensive comic, and she just wasn't. But what she shows in this documentary is great, because she goes to the South. She talks to people with college educations, people that sound intelligent. And these people are talking about separation of races in the United States. She was talking to some people in South Carolina who were at a Civil War reenactment, and these guys were saying that slavery, abuse happened during slavery. It wasn't that big of a deal. But, most of the slaves, they loved their masters. They didn't want to be free. And they were treated very well. They were like, a part of the family. And they got offended when Chelsea brought up, you're still holding them against their will. And let's not forget that we may not have known them, but we now know what Stockholm Syndrome is. And they got offended. So this takes me into a conversation that I've been threatening to have on this show, that I'm getting so excited right now because we're finally getting to have it. I get to attack liberals. So I don't know where you stand on this, but I'll give my position here. So, being politically correct, the American public the liberals have been swinging so far to the left on this that it is getting on my nerves. Here's the thing. Comedians have become the voice of reason over the last 20 years, thanks to people like Jon Stewart and Bill Maher, and now you have John Oliver carrying that torch, and Chris Rock and Jerry Seinfeld have been largely speaking out against this, because these guys won't even perform at colleges anymore, because everything offends everybody. This goes back to a point that I made, I think last week, on not having pride in what you are. I love offensive comedy. I love making fun of stereotypes, whether it's for whites, for blacks, Jews, whatever. Doesn't matter. Because we need to be able to laugh at ourselves. You cannot possibly take what you are seriously without it being at the expense of what somebody else is. And everybody seems to forget, once again, you had zero responsibility in what you are. You do not get to take credit for it. You have nothing to do with it. You have no influence. And there are times when the line gets crossed. Michael Richards loved Seinfeld, and that was, an iconic character. And this guy snapped at the Laugh Factory in LA, 7 years ago?
Yeah.
We make it a point to tell people when something has gone too far. You can make fun of black people as a white person. Daniel Tosh does it all the time. Many people have done it. South Park has gotten away with saying the N-word on their show because they do it in a respectful way to make a point. But everybody knows you do not get to refer to a black person or black people as a whole or anybody in that manner. Everybody knows it. Michael Richards knew it. He crossed the fucking line. He deserved everything he got. But does that not mean that we cannot make fun of what being black people or what being a black person means stereotypically, or white people or gays, any of that? We need to start laughing at this shit to show how big of a joke racism really is. Because once we silence these people, we have a problem. Once the comedians, we have a huge opportunity right now. We have a bunch of people that are well-known stand-up comedians that don't have a college degree, that didn't get raised with a silver spoon. The life of a struggling comedian before they make it is just like a musician. These guys are living in flats with roommates, don't have money for anything. They starve. They travel. I saw a musician meme the other day that says you spend $100 in gas in 6 hours driving to a gig after packing up your stuff to make $50. That's what a musician really is. That's what a comedian really is. And these guys are our representatives. They are the ones that get to see the world, they study it, and they speak their mind, and they give us their opinions. And when we shut them up, we're going to be doing our world a very big disservice.
I agree. As far as comedy, right? As far as comedians and comedy goes, like you said, there are lines, right? I mean, they're pretty far out there. And when it's myself, I don't really listen to stand-up comedy too much. So I just don't have as much, experience listening to it. I don't, man, I don't get turned off necessarily by offensive comedy. It's just, for me, stand-up comedy is just not really my thing. But I agree with your point that these people, I mean, they need to have every tool at their grasp, because hey, it's legit, and we have free speech. If you can have, obviously, the KKK, which we don't support, but we
unfortunately support their right.
Acknowledge their right to exist, right? So if you have, people like that, of course you can have a comedian, poking fun at somebody. So I think the PC thing in comedy, and, I remember I've heard about it a while back when Chris Rock stopped playing in colleges, and Jerry Seinfeld, as well. And I did kind of take a mental note, and I thought, that's an interesting kind of dynamic happening when you see colleges afraid to, college students are so panicky that the comedians are afraid, to perform there. As far as the term PC in general, I think I'm a little bit more. It's just because I think, especially right now, I guess with Donald Trump kind of, doing his thing, I think people on the right kind of use that as a crutch sometimes too.
Right.
Like when he says something completely racist or, Islamophobic or whatever the case, that stuff, when you're a person in his position, I think political correctness you have to think about what you say.
Sure.
So I think in general, like I said, in comedy, it's one thing, and I'm 100% for it. There's, as long as you're not obviously, going the Michael Richards thing, sure. As long as you're not taking it to that effect, I'm all for it. As far as in our life in general, I think it's a good thing that we've changed the way we talk about, women and certain things like that. At the same time, Donald Trump's a good example. What do you call Megyn Kelly, a bimbo, and just things like that. I think those things are just. It's not like in a comedic fashion or anything like that. It's just.
And that's the point. There's a big difference between the formula that I have come up with, and this is what I tell people, because the inner racist comes out of everybody once they feel comfortable. They'll say certain things if they really do have those thoughts. And being in Arizona, I don't have any. I don't have to even look for it. It's there. And what the line that I tell people when they tell me a racist joke that is not even meant to be funny. It's just meant to be cruel. And they laugh at it and they ask me why I don't. I tell them the rule of thumb for making an offensive joke is that your joke needs to be twice as funny as it is offensive. That's me. That's what I think. And that is something, I've watched stand-up comedy a lot, and, doing improv and stuff like that, and being in, performing on stage and stuff like that, and having to worry about the things that you say and how they come out. A very smart instructor that I had told me that getting an ooh out of the crowd is 10 times better than getting a laugh, because that means you made them think. That means you poke their emotion. And that's all art is. All art is evoking emotion. Art can be anything that makes you angry, happy, sad, laugh, whatever. And one video that's out right now that did an amazing job illustrating everything that I'm talking about is Triumph, the insult dog comic, whatever the hell his name is. He's got a show on Hulu, and I watched one of his videos about PC where he interviewed a bunch of college students about what they get offended over, and he was just feeding it to them. He was just making every horrible joke that he could, but he followed my formula. It was twice as funny as it was offensive. It was great. And at the end, I hope, at least with those kids in the room, and I hope with most of the people that see the video, and I'll link it to the page after this episode. I hope it hits home and delivers the point, because I think you said during one of our conversations a while back that teaching children what to think is not necessarily the right way to teach kids. It's teaching them how to think. And while kids are in college, they're doing more thinking than they'll probably ever do in their lives. They're set in their ways in some aspects, but in other ways, there's a time and a place for everything, and it's called college. And they should be experiencing as much as they possibly can. And we talk, we don't have the freedom of art that we used to have. Our music is nothing. We have a war going on. We have a war that's been happening since shortly after 9/11. Where are our Jimi Hendrixes? Where's our Creedence Clearwaters? Where are all of these different artists that would come out and speak against these things? We don't have it in music anymore. I mean, I'm sure it exists. I'm sure it's out there. One of my favorite metal bands, Disturbed, they have political agendas, but they're not Hendrix. They're not those people. They're not those influential artists. It doesn't exist in music anymore. You can occasionally find it in film. Jim Carrey had a great quote when he was on Inside the Actor Studio. We cannot censor speech because film and art are the last places you can tell the truth. That's it. That's the final place that we have. And now that it's been completely robbed out of our music, we're now looking to our comedians that run news shows. I don't have a problem with it, but that's what this has evolved into, because the music industry has scientifically found a way to sell fucking records, and the message has been lost. And it's a huge disservice when, as we were talking before, more people know who Kim Kardashian is than Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. So, I'll post the video, but this pendulum is swinging way too far to the left. I mean, and people need to stop being offended at everything. They need to learn to laugh at themselves, because it's only when we do that do we realize that as many white people eat cheese sandwiches as black people are on welfare. Or as many, gays are flamboyant and completely out of the closet and run around yelling "fabulous," just as many Asians don't know how to drive. Well, that's the only way this is going to happen, is when we realize that this whole fucking thing is a joke. What you are is a fucking joke. Laugh at it. There we go. You got anything else on that?
No, I think you hit it pretty hard. I think the one thing that I would talk about, I guess, is personal, offense. It's not often that I, even if I see something that I wouldn't necessarily say is politically correct, I don't necessarily get offended where like, oh, that hurt my feelings. But it's more in my case, I think, I guess as a bleeding heart liberal, it's more of like thinking like, oh man, that was a pretty fucked up thing to say about, Megyn Kelly or, whatever the case in general. I can say like, oh, as a man, that probably just, isn't something that a man in 2016 should say to a woman on Twitter or, whatever the case.
Well,
but as far as like myself getting offended, I can't remember the last time somebody offended me.
Well, this whole thing is subjective. And I think, because I feel that same way too about women. And I think that has to do with you and I being raised by both of our moms. We were both closer to our mothers growing up than we were our fathers. And, I think that may have a lot. I think it does have a lot to do with it. Both of our moms are strong women, and and your mom just embodies the strong woman mentality. You can, read that off her the second she walks in the door. Mine's a lot more old fashioned and shit, but I think that might play, a bit of a part in that is, you and I were the men of the house at a very young age. So, and that's another thing to keep in mind is everybody's got a different line, and that line needs to be sacrificed when it comes to the public eye. There needs to be, in my opinion, there needs to be an ultimate line for society to follow. There is a line. It's just not where society is putting it right now. It's not where these college kids think it is.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. So, what else do we got here?
I think we got a good little segue since we were talking kind of about our growing up and stuff. Obviously a lot of people listening don't necessarily know us or know, how we grew up, but we grew up in, good old Modesto, California. I think number 8 on the worst places to live in the United States, or something like that.
It's gotten better. It was number 4 back in 2010.
I was gonna say 4, but I just didn't want to, aim a little too low. But it's in the top 10, right? And to be fair, we struggle through life and stuff, but it's not. We necessarily, didn't go without, or we may do. So I don't want to make it sound harder, than it was.
We never lived in our car, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah. But for us growing up at that time, young stupid kids, fights were pretty a monthly occurrence. Or
I remember one month when there was a fight like every other day due to some high school bullshit that you and I got into. And I remember I think your record is 4 fights in 3 days. One of them was a gang fight. And I think this goes to if I could send one message to one group of people and have it resonate, it would be to all freshman kids that high school is not the end of your life. It's just a piece of it. What happens here does not matter at all. And all this, high school is the greatest time of my life. High school, those are the glory days. Let me tell you something. Alex is the one person from high school that I talk to on a regular basis. I have like 2 others. That's it. Fuck your high school friends. Like, they're great when you run into them every once in a while or some shit. I mean, it's cool, but the decisions you make in high school outside of educational decisions, your social decisions, they don't mean anything. They really don't. Not for me, they haven't.
Yeah, and we've talked about before. If you could, kind of go back and knowing what we know now,
right,
obviously, and implant it in a young freshman Mike, you definitely have a much, probably your whole life would probably be different. Right now we probably wouldn't be sitting here. So yeah, I think obviously we've learned a lot, but I think the part that we're going to focus on a little bit is just how both of us, and it's odd that we kind of went our own ways for a long time after high school, and then getting back reacquainted. We both have a similar take on this, but both of our, I guess, propensity to violence has just it's gone down considerably.
Right.
And I think part of it, for me, is I think when I came out as an atheist, I felt like people were gonna judge me, say, "Oh, this guy's an atheist. He does this, he does that." So I think I almost put it on myself to like break some of the stereotypes and not conform to the typical kind of atheist mentality or stereotype. And a part of that has been nonviolence, and I never would have imagined myself 10 years after high school or preaching nonviolence. But I mean, really, when you look at some of the most influential people, Muhammad Gandhi and Martin Luther King, and the way that the things that they were able to accomplish using nonviolent tactics, I think definitely needs to be called out and studied more than it is currently.
Yeah. And that's the point I was making about high school is, you know, you and I both had, as well as everybody in that school, it was, you need to be, you know, feared. And one thing that I'll point out is, out of all the shit you and I got into, I can't recall one time we looked for it. I want to say we brought it on ourselves. I'm trying to figure out how. But the only people that I remember you and I ever really like seeking out as a problem was bullying. Like, remember we had Blacksmith.
Yeah, and I think you know, we kind of, I think, cherished the role, I guess, you know, of bullying the bullies.
Yeah.
You know, and even some of the, you know, the groups that we got into it later, they were kind of the established jocks of the, you know, the school.
I hated those fuckers.
You know, so I think, you know, those guys, remember, they would go around cold cocking people on video. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. So
yeah,
we had this kid. I met him in junior high, and then Alex, you met him in high school when you were in Metal Shop, and you guys gave him. His name was Chris, but you guys knew him as Blacksmith, because.
That's what he wanted to be.
That's what he wanted to be called. And this guy had a mullet, carried around one of those rolling backpacks.
He was like 5 foot nothing, 110 pounds.
Yeah,
and just a tiny guy.
And he was funny, but he did not know how to stand up for himself. And as he would be going to, you know, to classes or whatever, and he'd have his backpack rolling behind him, kids with superiority issues would go over and just like punt his fucking backpack. And those were the kids to me, those were the only problems that you and I would seek is, you know, to defend the I would call him defenseless, but he's defenseless because it was his choice. It was his choice to be non-confrontational and just keep on walking and ignore it. He wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't confront anybody. And you know, to me, that was bullying a bully. You know, I would still do that today. I would still stand up for that person. And with it being nonviolent, so for me, I started talking about this because a few weeks ago, my wife and I went to go see a movie. I don't remember which one. And there was a trailer came on, and it was an action movie, and it was just nothing but, you know, guns blazing and you know, shit like that. And after we were done with the movie we watched, she was telling me that she has no desire to see that stuff. She doesn't want to see it anymore. And she doesn't know why. She's never been opposed to action movies. And one of the things that I realized, loving film as much as I do, is I haven't sought out an action movie in forever. And growing up, you and I used to watch fucking Bad Boys. That was like one of our favorite movies. We used to watch Bad Boys all the time. I can't remember the last time I actually saw a movie like that and wanted to watch it. It just, I don't know. It doesn't happen with me. But, you know, when I say I'm non-violent now, that does not mean I am turned the other cheek. If you walk up and slap me, you and I are going to have a physical confrontation. It's going to happen. I am not opposed to defending myself. What I am opposed to is violence should not even be a considered result in most occasions. Because like I've said before, somebody's doing something wrong. It makes sense that if you just go beat the hell out of them, you'll change their opinion. It doesn't work at all. It never does. And honestly, like I brought up, your personal record is 4 fights in 3 days. The first 3 didn't solve anything. The fourth didn't solve anything. And it didn't get solved until you were suspended, and I ran into 2 of the guys on the opposing side in the hallway, and they told me that we're fucking up their high, and they just want to move on. And then that was the end of it. That's how easy the conversation went. One guy got his fucking jaw broke. It was a huge fucking mess. So when I say I'm anti-violent, it's just, I felt myself not really going through this, but as my journey further into atheism happened, I didn't even notice that hunger and drive for physical confrontation that I think kind of was a survival mechanism for you and I growing up. It just vanished. It just went away. I didn't even notice it. And part of it may have to do with my profession. I've become very well experienced into my mouth getting me out of confrontations. Getting people to understand that coming to an agreement with me is much better than getting into a fist fight. And that's not me sounding like a badass. Neither one of us need a black eye or a broken nose. Let's just talk this out. And one thing that I did notice is it's a big turnoff for me to anybody when they say, "Oh, you don't want to see me mad. Oh, I black out. I see red. I taste blood when I get it." Fuck you. No, you don't. Shut the fuck up. I hate that. Oh, you don't want to see me mad. Fuck you. What the fuck you gonna do? Shut the fuck up. Like,
turn into the Hulk or something. I mean, come on.
Exactly. I cannot stand people that say shit like that. I mean, what I will tell some people is like, "Wow, you're getting angry," and I say, "No, you've never seen me angry. That's just my eyebrows. My eyebrows I have a ledge on my forehead that I can rest my fucking sunglasses on. It makes me look like I'm angry all the time, but I'm really generally a happy guy. But I can't stand people that brag about their violence, and it's even older people. I was interviewing somebody a few weeks ago who was in like their 40s, and he was a big guy. And he was like, so when you talk about verbal judo, which is a tactic to deflect things, it's an argumentative tactic. And I was telling him about this, and he's like, well, if somebody does, I mean, I can take somebody down with one finger. Fuck you. No, you can't. That's physically impossible. Bruce Lee never took somebody down with one fucking finger. Shut the hell up. I can't. Stop with this tough guy, fucking badass, conservative, Christian fucking talk that these guys are giving. I can't stand it. And every time I talk to somebody like this, they're the same goddamn person that wants to preach Jesus to me. Jesus didn't do anything with one finger other than allegedly heal the sick and raise the dead. Shut the fuck up. He didn't kick anybody's ass with his feet. He used them to walk on water. Why don't you take your own fucking examples and do something positive with it instead of wearing a goddamn cross around your neck so you can ask for forgiveness the next time you punk somebody and it really hurts someone and then you're in a fucking jam and you go to prison and discover Jesus there. Or Muhammad. Shut the fuck up. Oh my God. All right, I'm on a rant.
How do you really feel?
Oh my God, dude. It pisses me off. When somebody tells me they believe in God, they go down intellectually with me in a sense. And I've said there's nothing I can do about it. It's just what happens. But when somebody makes a comment like that, as a person, you're a lesser of a human being to me. Shut the fuck up. You know what? If you were so much of a badass, if you were this guy's crazy, he don't give a fuck, he'd be in fucking prison. Shut the fuck up. You're not in prison. You serve time? No. You're applying to be a police officer. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, moving on. You got anything else on this?
No, I think you wrapped it up nicely.
Oh, man. I have buttons. I have certain buttons that, like, you press them, and I go 0 to fucking 60. All right, what else we got here? Apple versus the FBI. Well, there are some people I would like to slap around a little bit. And those are the people that are supporting the FBI. So here's the deal. The 2 iPhones from the male and female that carried out the attacks in San Bernardino, the FBI cannot get into their phone. So they're going to Apple to help them do it. And one way or another, Apple can get this done. But Apple does not want to. Because once they do that, the keys to the kingdom are out. So, what do you think of this?
So I stand with Apple. I applaud Apple on this. I typically I'm an Android person, but this honestly wants to make me go out and buy Apple. I don't know if the other Samsung or any other companies would make the same stand, but I think the fact that they are does show, you got to give them credit for it, because a lot of a lot of companies in this case would just probably bow down and give the FBI what they want. I did see today, and I didn't read the article. I just kind of skimmed past it earlier, that the FBI was saying that they don't necessarily want a golden key built or the back. They don't want to go in the back door necessarily. I think, from what I understood,
at least not in Michigan.
from what I understood, is that they're trying to. They said they want Apple to just try every single password multiple times until the phone breaks, or some. They want to be able to just not create a system, but just hack into it. I guess almost like how I would hack into a phone that I found. You know, I guess something like that. That's
if that's the case, I don't have a problem with that.
And I feel the same way on that, right? If that's what they want to do and they're able to do that, hey, go ahead. If they're not, hey, sorry, you're out of luck. But the idea of building a master key that can be, taken by anybody or stolen, and then once that gets out, like you said, right now our cell phones are pretty secure. If something like that were to happen, who knows? Our phones, we got them all the time. It's probably, in this generation, it's probably one of our dearest possessions.
Sure.
It's crazy to think that the government is actually applying, for this. And I think, obviously there's freedom of speech issues here. And like I said, I applaud Apple and their CEO, I think Tim Cook, and hopefully it plays itself out in a constitutional upholding way, because that is, to me, I think it's kind of violation of the First Amendment
and the Fourth, because it will lead to a violation of the Fourth. And one clear point to make here is with everything the NSA, all the access that they have had to emails and phones and all that, not one plot has been deterred through this. It hasn't worked. So the FBI feels that there is a possibility of important information on those phones. I can't argue with it. I can't argue that there is or isn't.
I think, but when did this happened in November?
December. Happened on your birthday.
Oh yeah, that's right, December. So I doubt there's like any imminent attacks that they have in their inbox that are just like. Well, by the way,
that's my first thought, but I don't want to say that. I don't want to put myself in the FBI's shoes.
No, I just don't think if there was any vital information regarding upcoming attacks, I would imagine they would have been carried out by now. I could be wrong. Right?
My suspicion isn't for further attacks. My suspicion is to trace money and contacts.
No, exactly.
I have no basis for that. That's what I think is possibly happening. That's what I think they want it for. Completely my own opinion. But I said this after, not San Bernardino, but after Paris. So episode 4, I said it's easy to see where the Republicans are going to take this stance after an attack. And I don't think it happened there, but it did happen after. Now we're seeing it for San Bernardino, is that we sacrifice freedom for an illusion of safety. And this is a complete illusion of safety, because the NSA and the FBI have been able to get these things done before, and it hasn't solved one problem. So that's what this is. This is just another stance to infringe on the Constitution, which is this is just another thing that I find the right to be outdated on. Even a point that was made in that Chelsea Handler show I was talking about earlier, when she asked these Confederate reenactment soldiers and historians why they support the Confederacy still. They say it wasn't about slavery. It was about turning rights over to the states. It was about states' rights trumping federal rights. Does that not sound familiar?
Yeah, I had that
That's
stupid.
Still their rhetoric now.
Yeah, I had that stupid argument after the South Carolina shooting, and after another shooting, last year, and the whole Confederate flag thing came up. The thing that I did, after I had that argument a couple times, I actually looked up the secession letters from all the states that seceded, and it was in the first paragraph of every single state that seceded the right for slavery.
Right.
It was the first thing mentioned. So, I mean, facts don't necessarily
don't add up.
They don't move too far.
Fancy graphs and your quotes and shit. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it sounds very similar to me. That's all Republicans are about, and even libertarians are about states' rights. Outdoing federal rights, which, I mean, there has to be some state rights. Certain states are different than other states. Washington is not anywhere near the same as Arizona is. I've lived in both. I can tell you they are not the same, except there's a lot of outdoorsmen who want to wear shirts like the one I saw the other day. It said, if you plan on taking my guns, you better bring yours with you. What a thing to die over. People are just so willing to die over the Second Amendment. Where's Obama? Where's the huge confiscation? Where is this? He's doing it to the police.
He's only got 9 months, so it's coming.
It must be, because I would hate to think that what was that? Was it $9 billion has been given to has been spent on top of what was normally spent to gun manufacturers and the NRA, all that, ever since Obama got in office.
Yeah, it's been historic for them, so that was like a good win for them.
But where's the historic confiscation? Where is this thing that? What's the guy's name? The head of the NRA. What's his name?
Oh, LaPierre.
LaPierre. I was like Van Buren. I knew it was like two syllables or something.
Wayne LaPierre.
Yeah, where is all this shit that he's talking about? Where is the "you're coming to take my gun" shit? All of you should feel stupid. You should all feel dumb because it never fucking happened. And don't sit there and think, oh, well, it didn't happen because thankfully the Republicans controlled
we had the
Congress.
Patriots.
Yeah, we had the Patriots.
Patriots stand up.
No, this didn't happen for that, and it didn't happen because of Al-Qaeda didn't eat the D's. None of that helped you.
Hey, speaking of, did you see that video I posted where that guy's doing a little webcam thing, and he's like, you know what? Our people need to stand up.
Yes.
He says, so after this, blah, 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 we need to be patriots. So I'm taking a stand. And the idiot stands up. And it's funny, too. Because to me, I was just thinking of you because it's like fucking hilarious. He's like, we need to take a motherfucking. And as he's saying motherfucking, he stands up on his bed and hits his running ceiling fan. We got to link it on the page. But he hits his running ceiling fan. You see the dust from the ceiling fan go flying. And he just, oh, fuck, damn it. And he rolls over and turns off the webcam. But that was fucking. I honestly, I watched it like 10 times in a row.
Why the hell does that remind you of me? I've hit a few ceiling fans in my day.
No, because we said something about taking a stand, or the Patriots.
Oh,
or something.
right.
Yeah, no, but I think just the way he said it, that when he was like, motherfucking boom.
You should put that on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I'll link it after this. Just the timing, just like,
Yeah, I have a question, though. This guy's by himself. He must have been. Would you think he was live streaming this?
It had to have been live streaming.
Because I just wonder how the fuck. What makes you think like, oh fuck, my head is kill. Holy shit, that's funny. I'm gonna send this out to the world. Like, why would you release that shit? And if he was live streaming, it's so scary that people were actually watching this. This motherfucker's gonna stand on his bed and get bitch slapped by his ceiling fan, a dusty ceiling fan.
Oh, it was great, man. That was a freaking good piece of comedy for me.
So anyway, circling back with Apple, you know what? If they can do it by traditional hacking methods, help out the FBI by all means. But it is not worth it. It is not worth handing the keys to the kingdom over to the government. So let me see here. What else? What else do we need to cover? We got.
The one thing we had kind of talked about a little bit the other day is just back kind of election stuff, but
Right. The caucus, Nevada.
Oh yeah, we had the caucus, which you have a friend who had some personal experience.
Yeah.
From that.
So a friend of mine, diehard Bernie supporter, called me because he was so excited after the caucus. He was a precinct leader for Bernie's party, so he was one of the guys with the badge walking around answering questions. And at the end of the day, he is a delegate for Bernie. So congratulations to Kyle. And so before I was at work, so I didn't get a chance to watch the news. But when he was done telling me that, I was like, so what was it like? I've never been to a caucus. What was going on? And he says, it was the most disorganized, frustrating experience I've ever had in my life. Nothing was in order. It was completely screwed up. And so later on, when I get home, I start, at work, I was looking at the results, and Bernie lost by like 4 points. But this was supposed to be, Hillary was supposed to crush him worse than he did to her in New Hampshire. And so when I started looking at the news reports and reading the articles about it, I find out that, the nurses union, or a nurses union in Nevada endorsed Bernie, and Hillary had, campaign organizers dressed up as them, talking to undecided voters to sway them over to Hillary's side.
I think it wasn't necessarily dressed up as them. I think they wear red.
They wore
their
wore
emblem.
almost identical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
She's getting very sloppy in some of the shit that she's doing. Like they're just, I don't know. I'm kind of disgraced because you know what? I'm on the not trusting Hillary bandwagon. I wasn't there when it started, but I am there now, and that's not due to right-wing media. That's my own opinion. And a lot of that has to do with how she's treated Bernie Sanders' campaign, and her own behavior at the debates. She's responsible for my opinion.
Yeah, I don't want to lose that. I'll get back to that in a second, but I think going back to the kind of caucus process, when I first heard about them, it was a couple years back, previous elections. I always thought it was kind of interesting, and I think now that I have a better understanding and I've paid more close attention to them, I don't think the process works for a primary election. I think if you're going to decide who's your town mayor and you bring all the people in the town together and you guys can get in there and talk about, well, this guy offers this guy offers that. I think on a local level, maybe the caucus thing might be a little more effective. But I think when you're voting like this, right, I think you need to have just a straight up and down ballot, and you either vote Hillary or Bernie. You go in there, you do it, and you leave. Not only is it simpler, but I think the caucus, the format discourages a lot of people. If you got to be there 2 hours, or I'm not sure, how long Kyle was there as a precinct leader, probably even more.
He was there all day, is what he said.
Yeah, and I mean, we're dedicated. A lot of people are dedicated for that, but a lot of people aren't. I mean, they don't either have time or a babysitter or whatever the case. I don't really like the caucus process, and hopefully it at least gets cleaned up, if not changed. But yeah, the other thing that you had mentioned about Hillary, I feel the same way. I was ready to defend her.
I still am.
But it's a lot harder.
Right.
It's going to be a lot harder, especially after the integrity that Bernie's had throughout, and the the whole money thing and all that. But the thing that's really starting to bug me is people that I like and I appreciate their opinions and their policies. I'm starting to get discouraged when I see like Cory Booker come out and CNN asked him, Bill Clinton, here's another attack dog. Bill Clinton was saying that the Tea Partiers have a lot, or Sanders supporters have a lot in common with Tea Partiers. So we'll get back to that in a minute, but they were asking Cory Booker, who's to me a well-respected person. I have a lot of respect for him. I've seen him in the news for probably 3 or 4 years going back, and I've always held him in high regard. But they asked him for his opinion on the question. He's a Hillary surrogate. If he felt that way, and just like kind of he wouldn't answer the question. And I forgot who was doing the interview. Maybe Chris Cuomo, but he did a pretty good job of kind of saying like, "Hey, I'm not going to let you go on this. Are they like them or not?" And I think 3 or 4 times he kind of gave a broad answer, like, you can. It was just a general answer. It was not, any kind of. Would
they be correct if he would have said that, because the Tea Party upset the right establishment, and they are way further to the right than traditional Republicans, and those 2 points I think can be made for Sanders. So I mean, if they would have given that answer, if they would say the Bernie Sanders campaign is the Tea Party campaign of the left, in the sense that they are further left than the champion Democrat being Hillary Clinton, and that they are upsetting. See, but Bernie isn't upsetting the Democratic establishment. He's upsetting the entire establishment. He's upsetting both sides. So I think if they would have given that answer, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But nobody likes Tea Partiers.
Yeah, no, that's fair too. That's where it's frustrating, right? Because he couldn't even, he just the whole part of it, the way that his answers, it was frustrating because, like I said, he's either way I would have been okay, but they're asking you a specific question. They asked you 4 times. At least give your honest answer on it. And if you would have said something like that, hey, like you said, that's fine. When I was thinking about it after hearing Bill Clinton said that, at first I was like, oh, that motherfucker, and then I started thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, look what the Tea Party's done. Obviously, I don't agree with them, right? But look how many people they were able to get into Congress, into the Senate, into the House. A lot of people, right? I'm not saying, I agree, but if you were to take that, and if Bernie Sanders were to create that same movement on the left, and we were to sweep all those, congressional seats because we have, I don't know, progressive party or whatever the case. Right. If that were the case, the major difference is obviously the far right don't believe in government. So some of these guys campaigned on, I want to be your government, but we're gonna not do anything, right? So I think the difference, in my opinion, is just the ideology, where if you have all these progressive people in there, they're not just going to sit back and say, oh, let's just, see what happens. We don't want to make government bigger. In my opinion, if we had a progressive down. Yeah, exactly. If you had a progressive sweep, you're going to see a lot more things on the progressive agenda getting actually brought up and tackled. Compared to on the right, where they just sit on their hands.
I didn't see the interview you're talking about, but do you think maybe because Bill Maher doesn't call them teabaggers for nothing. I mean, they don't have a good rapport with the general public, being the American people. The majority of people do not like the Tea Party. I mean, you need to be a very conservative right-wing Republican to be a part of that, and that's their selling point. Do you think the reason why he didn't give the answer is because there's such negativity on the liberal side, Hillary Clinton's side, attached to the Tea Party, that if you just make that comment that Bernie Sanders' supporters are the same as the Tea Party, and you don't give any substance to it, it does more damage than if he would have clarified? Do you think him not clarifying his question or clarifying his answer when he was pressed on it was an attempt to further damage Bernie's image? I guess. I think so, because I think he could have gone either way with this question, with his answer either being yes or no, and he could have made it about like, hey, Bernie's a decent candidate, he's a good person, blah blah blah. The way that he did it, to me, seemed like he was more than happy to leave the charge just on the table. You know what I mean? And to me, I thought, Bill Clinton, they're getting desperate. I think, as you see some of the different tactics and things,
I mean, I do remember with Obama 8 years ago some of these kind of same things, but I just would have thought that they would have grown out of them by now and realized, it didn't work for a reason.
Yeah, she is definitely getting desperate. I think that's pretty obvious. How much time we got? We had about like 5 minutes.
4
left?
minutes.
4
Yeah,
minutes.
4 minutes.
Okay, so I'll close with this. We got a listener question. She asked, why have you and I why did we start discussing politics when we said in episode, like, I don't know, 1 through 3 or 4 that we weren't going to be a political podcast? So the answer for that is that you and I had a vision for what this show was going to be, and initially it was complete religion. Our very first episode, we had no preparation for. You and I were having a phone conversation, and then we were like, hey, why don't we just record this? And then we got on and we just started ripping religion. That was the plan. And we knew politics were going to play some sort of a part. But, we had that. We had our devil's advocate debate, which I thought was a lot of fun, and I think proved a lot of I think gave a good look into arguments that people have in the public, just at home or at work. But it didn't work. It wasn't working every episode. I mean, you and I were going to run out of topics eventually. That wasn't working. And I don't think politics and religion right now are just at war with each other. And I think we'd be doing a disservice to our listeners if we didn't do both. And this comes back to, you and I had another podcast. We had Casting Doubt, and that was supposed to be the political thing with very little religion. So the opposite of what we were going to do. And we had you and I and 2 other people, and we thought our personalities were perfect and our format was great. But it didn't work. It wasn't entertaining. We ended up, just talking over each other, and it just, I definitely hope to revisit it. I mean, I think it's something that we can keep trying and molding, but I think at the end of the day, that's what you and I have done with this show is, this is episode 16, and, we made one change. We brought in politics, and we kind of changed up our format a little bit, but really we made one change, and, recording these episodes with you has never been easier. It's been very easy to segue, and we can cover more ground. And we want people to learn as much as they can and laugh when they listen to us.
Yeah, I think you pretty much hit it right there. There's definitely conservative atheists. I don't want to discount those. I think if you look though at atheists in general, and you put them either to the left or the right, I think most of them tend to be on the left, just because there's kind of a thought process that's similar. The freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and all those things. I think are shared deeply, by both sides. So that there is that, and then like you said, the conversation. There was just so much conversation when we were only doing religion. We would stay on after the episode for 30, 45 minutes talking about politics.
Right. Exactly.
So I think, we decided, hey, let's just, merge them together. And like you said, since then, it's gone smoothly. We'll bring, especially, after the election, which is a while away, but we do want to, bring religion up as a main focus and combating some of the arguments for religion. We're gonna definitely get those out there. But like you said, it's gone smooth, and I'm happy where we're at now, and hopefully our listeners are too.
Yeah, and she's like one of our disciples, man. She and yes, you're because I know you listen to every single episode. I don't see you on Facebook that much, so I don't know if you go there. But my wife's cousin, whose name starts with a J, this is a shout out to you. Thank you for Alex and I both thank you right now for all the followers that you've been getting us, and it means a lot that you care enough to ask these questions. And apparently I don't think she's an atheist. I think she's kind of borderline, and she's looking for somebody to answer some of these questions. So hopefully she will get them to us, and we can discuss. Yeah, I think that's it. So Oh
yeah, we're about out of time here. So.
Oh, I'm like, hand signals. What are we doing here? Yeah, all right, cool. Well, follow us on Twitter at AOR_podcast. Check out our Age of Reason page at the Age of Reason podcast page on Facebook, and for everything else, go to AORpodcast.com. Alex, it's been great, man. We will talk to you next week.
All right.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.